What is the showbread of the tabernacle? This is the question, and we seek to answer today as we continue our verse-by-verse study of the book of Leviticus on Walking Through the Bible. If you have a Bible with you, turn to Leviticus 24. We're going to be reading from verses 1 to 9. If you don't have a Bible, don't worry. Just follow along with us on the screen. The version that we'll be reading from is the New King James Version. So, Leviticus 24, beginning at verse 1. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring to you pure oil of pressed olives for the light, to make the lamps burn continually. Outside the veil of the testimony in the tabernacle of meeting, Aaron shall be in charge of it from evening until morning before the Lord continually. It shall be a statute forever in your generations. He shall be in charge of the lamps on the pure gold lampstand before the Lord continually. And you shall take fine flour and bake 12 cakes with it. 2/10 of an ephah shall be in each cake. You shall set them in 2 rows, 6 in a row, on the pure gold table before the Lord. And you shall put pure frankincense on each row, that it may be on the bread for a memorial, an offering made by fire to the Lord. Every Sabbath he shall set it in order before the Lord continually, being taken from the children of Israel by an everlasting covenant. And it shall be for Aaron and his sons that they shall eat it in the holy place. For it is most holy to him from the offerings of the Lord made by fire, by a perpetual statute. Of course, we know from previous studies that I have mentioned that chapters and verses were placed in the books of the Bible by men. They usually separate contexts into nice, neat sections and make it easier for us to find things. For instance, if I want to find a discussion of Jesus' parable of the 10 virgins that we studied in Matthew, I could say turn to Matthew 25 and let's read verses 1 to 13. If Matthew didn't have chapters and verses, we could still study that parable, but it would take us longer to find it. So too it is with sections that we often subdivide a book into. Back at the beginning of chapter 23, I said that we would be entering the 4th section of Leviticus, dealing with holy days and seasons, which would cover chapters 23 through 25. However, in chapter 24, we take a little diversion, dealing with 3 important topics, 2 of which we'll discuss in today's lesson. That this passage doesn't seem to fit into this section shouldn't be a concern for us, for it is still the Word of God no matter in what order it is written in. What we have here in verses 1 to 9 are expansions of topics that we discussed in our study of Exodus. Up now on the screen is a picture of the inside of the tabernacle. Behind the veil is the most holy place in the tabernacle where the Ark of the Covenant and the mercy seat were. This would be the place where the high priest would go alone once a year on the Day of Atonement to offer the blood of the bull and the goat. In front of the veil was the holy place. In it were 3 items: the altar of incense, the golden candlestick, and the table of showbread. The golden candlestick sat on the south end of the tabernacle, while the table of showbread sat directly opposite on the north end of the tabernacle. In verses 1 to 4, we have a repetition of the instructions given in Exodus 27, 20, and 21. The oil that was burned on the lampstand to provide light was not to be just any oil that they chose. It was to be pure oil of pressed olives, meaning the oil wasn't to be mixed with anything else. It was also to be olive oil and not any other type of oil that they might have been able to produce. Israel was to give this oil to the priests so the lamps would burn continually. Now, when we think of the word continually, we might think that what is being commanded here is that the lamps would always be burning and never go out. And while that is certainly within the realm of possibility, such is not the case here. Note from verse 3 that it says that Aaron was in charge of it from evening until morning. That tells us that the lamp was only going to be lit at night, while it was dark, and the word continually meant that as long as the law stood, this was to be done. From our study of Exodus, we noted that God gave the task of tending the lampstands to Aaron and his sons, while here in Leviticus, Aaron alone is mentioned. However, looking carefully at the language here in Leviticus, Aaron was put in charge of ensuring the lampstand remained lit, while in Exodus, both Aaron and his sons were charged with tending it, showing us that although Aaron's sons could tend to the lamp, Aaron was put in charge of maintaining the light. Coming now to verses 5 to 9, we find God's instructions concerning the showbread. In Exodus, we said that although the table of showbread was described in great detail, the actual showbread was not. How would the showbread be made? How much would there be? What would it be used for? Here in Leviticus 24, we get the answer. As to how it was made, fine flour was to be taken and 12 cakes made, each cake representing one of the tribes of Israel. 2/10 of an ephah of flour was to be used in each cake, and using our modern conversions, each cake would be just over 18.5 cups of flour, which weighed about 2.2 kilograms or 5 pounds of flour. So as you can see, these were not small cakes of bread. They were large. They were to be set in 2 rows of 6. Due to the size of the top of the table, which was 3 feet by 1.5 feet, this bread wasn't laid out in 2 rows of 6, where each loaf was beside the next one, but rather 2 rows of 6 where 6 loaves were piled on each other. Pure frankincense was put on each row. While this might seem to mean that frankincense was poured over the bread, from non-biblical sources, it appears that these were placed in vials in between each row. This would make sense, for in Exodus 25:23-30, we find that pitchers and bowls for pouring were also going to go with the table of showbread. However this was done should not really concern us, though, as we're not under this law today. The showbread was to be changed every Sabbath day, and the old bread was to be eaten by Aaron and his sons only in a holy place for as long as the law of Moses stood. It is this bread that Jesus referred to in Matthew 12, verse 4, when discussing the Sabbath with the Pharisees, a point we'll need to remember, the Lord willing, when we get to our study of David in 1 Samuel. With that, our time is up for today. The Lord willing, we hope you'll join us for tomorrow's discussion of Leviticus 24, verses 10 to 23, as we continue our walk through the Bible, one verse at a time. Thank you for watching today's episode. We hope that you found it edifying and ask that you not only subscribe to our channel and podcast, but that you like and share this episode among your friends, so that the saving gospel of Jesus Christ can go out to the whole world.